All right, last up this morning as they just came off the practice field over at Towson. He is the head coach of the Tigers, reigning CAA champions. He is Coach Shawn Nadelen, and he is with us on our College Lacrosse preview show. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's always great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for fitting me in.
Coach, can you kind of put through just the words of what last season, and I know that you had bigger goals, and my God, the competitive nature your team showed at Syracuse, what you could have done, but just having a year like that, getting back to the tournament, winning the CAA, what did all of that mean to you and to the Towson program?
That was an exciting, obviously, experience and year for that group, the 2024 group. Something that they, set their sights on and were able to achieve. The senior class was a small group. We graduated 6 guys last year, and they did a tremendous job. Making sure that we were pretty on point all year. From the fall through the spring, and some pretty high level guys. In that group with Colby Bars and Nick DeMeo and Reese Potter, that were, big difference makers, for us, and their maturity and leadership, really shine through down the stretch for us in the CAA and into the tournament.
With such a small graduating class, that means you have a fair bit of continuity this season. Have you seen this group kind of, I don't want to say start where it left off, because that was a pretty high spot to be in, but to start off in practice, at least, in a better place than you would typically see a team playing in January?
There's more experience for sure, Patrick, coming back. So that lends us to the opportunity to, again, um, be able to move a little bit quicker with some things as far as install. Even though we brought in a large freshman class too, so we gotta, we've had to balance that out and make sure we're not moving too fast for those guys where they're just sinking, but being able to make sure that we're developing everybody. You got the fresh guys and new guys that are very simple and fundamental, and the older guys that we can be a little bit more nuanced and create a little bit more with those guys. So the experience has been helpful. The rate at which we've been able to do things has been good. We thought we'd be able to move a little bit faster, but recognize that, sometimes, moving too fast or in a hurry, as Coach Wooden would say, is not really the right way to go about it. So, making sure that we're, um, doing what we're capable of doing at a high level and being very efficient in our process.
Coach, I wonder, and I know you're probably going to be like, hey man, we're not doing that. That sounds like rat poison. But given everything that you've accomplished as a program, and given how much you brought back, do you guys talk openly about bigger goals, about what more this team can accomplish this year?
Yeah, I mean, this team hasn't accomplished anything yet,
Yeah.
right? The program, yes, we've, like any program out there that has had, a good deal of success. We're fortunate to, be able to do that and say that. But, each year is its own entity, and this year's is no different. So, this team, the 2025 team, hasn't accomplished anything yet. So, we don't necessarily talk about it every day or anything like that. Our focus is always in regards to putting our best on the field each day, and making sure that we're retaining and able to grow and develop and build off of each day, and challenge ourselves there, challenge each other. So in regards to, to past successes, we look at it more as like, how is the experience going to help us, get better? What are some things that we want to be aware of, in regards to lessons learned along the way, not just last year, but previous years. We got seniors that, haven't been able to, be that successful and have, as successful years as we did last year. So, learning from all of that, and making sure that we avoid as many obstacles. And if we do face the obstacles, how to navigate through them together, and be able to be better.
Mikey Weishauer comes back off a 42-goal season as a sophomore, along the lines of growing and developing and improving. Just what's the next step for him as a guy that figures to be, again, one of the top midfielders in the country?
it's really two-sided for him, and he's taken on the responsibility. So there's personal growth, and then there's athletic and skill development, lacrosse growth, so to speak. So for Mikey, it's he's taken on a lot of ownership in how he can grow as a young man, and his maturity and how he goes about his day-to-day, just process and life, which has been neat for him to go down that path and to find more within himself. And he's sought help, and obviously not just us, but other resources. And it's been neat to see him really dive into that, knowing that, and believing in himself that he knows he's capable of so much more, and he wants to get there, not just for himself, but for the team. And then there's the development as a lacrosse player. His IQ needs to continue to improve. As people have seen, he can be a heck of a playmaker. There's no doubt about that. He knows what to do when the ball's in his stick, but how can he position himself or position the team offensively better when it's not in his stick, and being able to be dangerous, with and without the ball. So, expanding his game, from the IQ, from the understanding, as well as being more efficient in his shooting and his skill and passing and ground balls.
How nice is it when you have the specialist positions, right? Like at the face-off dot with Constantinides, Luke Downs in goal. What does that do, for the entire team when you have such constants in those spots?
It just gives you that confidence that that there's a guy that's been through it, however many years. Matt's been a starter for us since midway through his freshman year and taking a ton of faceoffs in a ton of games. So a lot of experience there, and it's been fun to work with that faceoff group and for him to impart that experience on the younger guys and for those guys to grow from that. So, not only is it impactful, from, scrimmages and games, but also continuing to pass along, the knowledge is helpful. You look at Luke Downs and, coming on last year and having a really strong year, and coming back and, being able to build on that experience is helpful. And then imparting that in our goalie unit. We've had a heck of a battle. As good as Luke is, we got some strong goalies that, we feel very highly about. And, Luke's continued to be challenged, to be sharp and to stay on his game, to make sure he continues to try to solidify that starting role. And our goalie culture is very healthy, because of it all, as well as our face-off culture.
We talked to Charlie Toomey a little bit earlier about moving the Loyola Towson game into April and how, in a dream world, you guys are playing that game on a weekend at some point. But how important is it simply to get it into a more appealing spot on the calendar, whether it's a weekend or deeper into the season where more people might be able to attend it? And just how much of a priority was that for you this offseason?
Right. We're fortunate, so much great lacrosse right here in Baltimore at all different levels, from youth all the way through, to college. So, I think it's important for all the college teams in, the greater Baltimore area to, try to find, great time within the schedule if we can to be able to give these great games back to the community, and to be able to have those be attractive, from being able to show up and be at United Stadium or Ridley or Homewood or, down at UMBC and all over, being able to be a part of a decent weathered game, even though we're a spring sport. Games are starting February 1st, so that's that makes it a challenge, as well as the conference schedules now. A lot of teams are reluctant to play within their conference schedules just because those games mean so much more with how everything shakes out when you get to the NCAA tournament selection process. Before you could play, a Towson Loyola game late April on a Saturday, and Towson Hopkins and things like that and the late April slots, but those are all taken up now by conference games, for all the teams. So it makes it harder, for sure, but I think it's keeping those games intact is vital, and trying to find the best opportunity for for everybody to enjoy them is kind of the next best step.
I also saw on the schedule you're going to Houston to play a game this year.
Yes, yeah, we're playing Virginia down there March 8th, I believe it is, which will be a neat opportunity. Again, anytime I think you can take if you're making a road trip and you can take that road trip away from the other team's home site, I think that's
That's
a
fair.
that's
Yeah, that's
a
a
good
good
thing as
point.
well.
Yeah.
So that works out well for us in that regard. But again, being able to bring um, two top tier Division I lacrosse teams to Houston, Texas, and showcase the sport at a high level in that area to help the sport grow and hopefully encourage kids that are playing to potentially want to play, at our level, in college. And if that helps, just one kid, have that dream and that vision by being able to experience that game, we've made the game better. And we got a couple of recent alums. Nick DeMeo is actually coaching down there
That's
now
cool.
with his older brother, and Kyle Berkeley are down there. And so again, it's going to be a neat experience for us. Hopefully, a great experience for the Texas lacrosse community as well.
On the subject of Nick DeMeo, obviously the big loss on that offense. Who has an opportunity, you think, to kind of step into a larger role with his departure?
It's a great question. We got a lot of options. We knew Nick brought a lot to the table. The biggest thing, if anybody attended a game or streamed it, you could always hear his voice. That thick Boston accent. So that's one thing that, again, a new voice or a collective group of voices are trying to be heard and working together. So we're looking at a few different guys in that role with Matt Burnham and Ronan Fitzpatrick as far as the kind of the natural lefties in that group. Also swinging around with Ryan Schreier being back and healthy, who started for us the back end of his freshman year at attack. Being able to be into the mix as well.
I did want to bring up just one because you mentioned obviously there's so much back, but there is a few freshmen that are interesting, and I think one from a local standpoint that I know you said got some run in the fall. Owen Scott from Calvert Hall, is he somebody that maybe can have a role for you?
Yeah, he proved in the fall that he is capable of playing at a high level. I think as like any freshman, the more we add, the more challenging it becomes for them. So, he's continuing to do well, put himself in position to, has played in our scrimmages and gotten some good, opportunities and runs there. So, yeah, we expect to see him on the field this spring.
Shawn Nadelen, the season gets underway. I can't help but notice there's a trip to Syracuse that's looming. After how that went, that could be a fun one. But before that, next Tuesday, at home against Hopkins, talking about those great local rivalry games. That's how the season will begin for the Tigers on Tuesday, and then at Syracuse the following week. Always appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing you real soon. Thank you for taking the time for us, Coach.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, guys. Take care.
Shawn Nadelen, head coach of the Tigers. We wrap with your thumbnail on Towson.
They're known. Like, you know what you're going to get. Yes, there are certainly some pieces like Colby Bars and Nick DeMeo who aren't there, but you have a lot more answers than you do questions. And, you look at the CAA, and let's face it, the league beyond Towson and Delaware wasn't particularly strong last year. I thought Fairfield was actually a pretty decent team. But after you got beyond that, there was a pretty big gap. And so, do any of those teams manage, like a Fairfield or a Drexel or a Hofstra, manage to narrow that gap? Because if not, then it becomes kind of a Hofstra or a Delaware and Towson show again. And Towson won those two games at the end of last season, was able to go to the tournament as a result. This year, since Delaware's leaving the league, they're not eligible to host the tournament again. So that's a game that, Towson doesn't even have to finish first necessarily in the league to host the conference tournament. That said, I think if you're them, you're obviously going to be hunted, big target on your back with all these folks back, and being the defending champs. But I do think that if we're sitting here saying, like, is there a team, best bet to win their conference around here? Because I think Johns Hopkins and Maryland are both teams that are good bets to make the NCAA
Yes, of
tournament.
course, yeah.
But there's a number of good teams in the Big Ten. Like I think Towson is a clear favorite to win its league at this point. And how do they deal with expectations? Because last year was about restoration. Those guys were really, really excited about getting CAA or getting Towson back to the top of the CAA. Now it's about maintenance and getting better and maintaining that spot at the top.
So I ask it to you this way, because I certainly understand why Shawn Nadelen had no interest in going there. But, is Towson a team that, hey, a couple of these things go right, they could be a threat to win a game in the NCAA tournament?
I think they absolutely are. The problem you're going to have is kind of similar to what we were talking about with Loyola earlier. Like, you look at those non-conference games, and they play Hopkins, Syracuse, Navy, St. Joe's, UMBC, Virginia. And if you can't pick off one of Hopkins, Syracuse, or Virginia, it quickly becomes
you have to win.
You have to win the league. And so, if you're Towson, you can certainly hear it with kind of the way Shawn answered those questions. Like, this is about getting better over the long haul and being able to improve, and you're not trying to rush through anything, because one of the worst things that could happen is, let's say they're sitting there and they're 3-3 after 6 games, or maybe even 2-4, and you don't want to feel like the season is over. Because remember, they went 13-4 last year, and that had, I think, a 9-game winning streak in it. So it's not like they were off to just dominating in February and early March before, it just so happened they also won the CAA. Like they got better as that year went along and figured things out. So I think for them, there's an acknowledgement that, it'd be great to pick off a Hopkins or a Syracuse or a Virginia, maybe put yourself in a position to play a home game in the NCAA tournament. But the most important thing is to be the team that actually makes it to the NCAA tournament. And I think if they're sitting there and they're paired with a 7 or 8 seed, there's no reason a team like that has a really experienced offense that checks boxes at face-off and in the goal can't be a team that wins at least one game in the NCAA tournament.